So hi guys, welcome to Music Talk with Ad Rian. Today I want to talk about how to make a living as a musician, different options to generate an income as a professional musician. And for all of you that are new to this channel, this is all about real live-through experience that I like to share with you in order to help you navigate through your professional music career. And please consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps the channel grow. And I want to dive right into it after this short intro. Now, first of all, to start with, I want to bring some general thoughts here to the table. Now, talking to people that are not familiar with the music business, you hear a lot of opinions, kind of like saying into the direction, well, you can't, make a living from music. You have to have another job. It's really difficult, music is not really a job. You can't generate enough income by that. And, I kind of like know where this is all coming from because a lot of people, they just have a very one-dimensional way of looking at the job as a musician because they just think that the only way that you generate money is by playing clubs. And a lot of musicians actually have that kind of thinking as well, and that's why they're really limited. They're really limited in their perspective in what they can actually achieve, because they think, oh, okay, this is like going to be really hard to get so many gigs, so good, well paid, that I can actually make a full-time living at it. And that might actually even be true. It also depends, though, where you're living, where you're located. Like, for example, if you live in a city, in a big city, maybe you could even achieve, making a full-time living just by playing as a tour musician, as a performer. Where when you live in the countryside, for example, that might be a lot harder, But even there, it could be possible if you're prepared to do a lot of traveling, do a lot of driving. You could maybe even make a full-time living just by playing if you live in the countryside. But there's actually good reasons why not to set up your career like that, and why not just to focus on just playing. And I want to point that out and tell you why this is the case. Now, the reason why it's a good advice as a musician not just to focus on live playing is that as a musician, if you are set up just to perform, if you're like a typical tour musician or performer musician, that can put a lot of strain on your body. It can really tear you out, because touring and performing is really stressful. I mean, it's something that you do have a lot of fun on doing it, and you do see and experience a lot of things. And, when you're younger, you can maybe even go for a couple of years. But, the advice that I give you on this channel is all set up for you to make a long musical career. Not that you just have a short time of success playing as a musician. After 3 or 4 years, you're all torn down and just totally mentally broken, because you're living such a stressful life. So your body and your mind needs time to kind of settle down. So I think, with that in mind, it's very important that you structure your career with different elements, with different kind of jobs, with different side hustles too. I mean, there's so much more to music than just performing. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a total passionate performer. I love playing live. But, when I was younger, we did a lot of touring, and I myself experienced, how much that can put strain on your body. And at some point, I really had to stop, and just really kind of regenerate, and, think about my career and the way I was going to set it up for the future. Because there's hardly anybody in music that can just go for a very, very long time just by touring, by constantly playing. It's just too rough out there. Okay. So don't focus just on that. Focus on different parts of generating income with your profession, with your talent. And what that could be, I want to point out right now. So one optional way to generate income as a musician could, for example, be teaching. Learn young folks how to play their instrument, and talk with them about your experience, your experience, and help them to pursue their own career and to get like really good at what they're doing. I've always done teaching as a professional musician as well, depending on how much I was on the road. When I was on the road, obviously, I did a little bit less of teaching, but when I was here, I did a little bit more of teaching, and I really enjoy it. I think it's really interesting to see like these young artists develop, and it's like a gift, like being a part of their career and helping them out with the experience that you made. Because a lot of times these young folks, they haven't got any experience at all. They don't really know anything about music business, and there's so much, to know if you really want to do like this professionally. So teaching, I think, is a very good way of generating an income as a musician. Now, you could do private lessons, or you could do classes, you could do workshops. There's like different ways you could structure your teaching profession. You could even like maybe try to do online courses, for example. So there's a whole big of a variety out there in the field of teaching and telling young people how to craft their work, and how to become a good artist, and how to really learn to play their instrument, and learn everything they need to know about music. It's a really nice thing. So this is one suggestion that I think is truly a good option, if you want to like generate a steady income. Now, a second option could be session work. There's a lot of musicians out there. There's a lot of, project studios, bigger studios, smaller studios, all kind of like creative gangs out there working on projects. Now, becoming a studio musician, doing session work has a lot to do with collaborating with other people. Usually you really get hired once people get to know you, because recording is like a process that it takes a lot of trust in each other. It's something like creativity is something that works best if you really get along well with each other, and if you just kind of like, as far as the chemistry, click on that same level. So do a lot of networking. Go out there and talk to other musicians. And get involved in what they're doing, show your interest in these projects. And, as you do that, I'm sure, sooner or later you'll get involved in a project, and somebody will ask you, we need a drummer, or we need a bass player. Are you free to do the job? And then they would hire you. Okay. And if you do a good job in that session, if you deliver musically something really valuable that adds value to that recording, there's a good chance that this studio will hire you again. So it's just like kind of working your way up, and it has a lot to do with your personal attitude and how you go about it. And the way to get into it is talk to people, network, and just really set your focus on studio work. It's like everything in music. You really have to be focused. You have to know what you want and just really focus on that. If you want to be studio musician, if you want to do studio work, focus on that. Talk to people, do networking, and I'm sure you'll be successful sooner or later. Maybe it takes some time, but if you talk to people, sooner or later you will be asked to play in a session. So the third option to generate an income as a professional musician, especially if you're good in songwriting and composing, is to get into film scoring, or get into creating jingles for commercials, or getting into doing soundtracks, musical soundtracks for TV, for example. Now, I did that for quite a while. I actually still do it sometimes. Now, even in this kind of field, it's the same kind of like everywhere. So I guess you get a feel of where I'm going with this. You do have to network. You do have to really focus on that. You want to do that. And it's best if you kind of like know somebody who already works at a TV station, or if you know somebody in advertisement, and just really showcase your work, showcase your music as a composer, like really tell them what you're able to do. And it's always an advantage if you do like different things. If you can do like classical arrangements, that might be work very well for a film, for example. Okay, now, but if you're like good with very punchy, quick hooks and good sound effects, that might be good for advertisement, for example, to get like this quick attention. If you're good with just creating moods, and like getting a whole sound kit together for a TV station to use in their series, TV might be the right thing for you. And, as a fourth option, you always have the chance, if you're really good at what you're doing, to write for other artists or other bands. Just offer them your help as a writer. If you see somebody struggling, just really kind of like display what you can do and offer your help in order for these other artists to get to have good songs. So that way you will dive deeper and deeper into this whole process. And as you go along, no matter in which field you're active, you will like meet new people. And these people, like, if you're good, and that's always on the core of everything, if you're good, these people will, you know, they will like talk about your work, and they will, like, if they talk with somebody else, they will say, hey, I know a guy, or I know this person. And you have to ask that musician, it's very good. This is how things go, and this is how you'll get more and more jobs as you go along. So this is the third option. There's actually even a fourth option that I want to point out right now. Now, this fourth and last option that I want to offer you is very much up to date in today's world. Create a brand out of your name, and out of you as an artist. This is especially interesting if you do a lot of live performing. If you create a name, based on a strong logo, on a strong image, on something that you represent. Now, in this case, you have to like see the whole big picture. You have to not just focus on your playing or on the music. This has to do with how you appear and how people recognize you. So this has to do with image. This has to do with graphics. This has to do with statements you do or actions you take. And if you have a strong brand, you can get into merchandise as well, which can be a very interesting business to generate money. You can like create all different kind of cool designs, and sell t-shirts, sell caps, sunglasses. There's so much stuff you can sell, maybe cups or lighters or whatever. If you have a cool logo, and if you're creative as far as like getting good designs on clothes, for example, there's a good chance that people will buy your merch. Do hoodies, do caps, do backpacks, do like stuff that people can actually use in their everyday life. Now, this is like really important. Don't just produce stuff that you personally like. I mean, you can do that in between, but think about what kind of merch that people really use in their everyday life, and like, what do they really carry with them and like always use it. Like, for example, a nice cup with a nice design. They'll, like, every morning they'll take they take their coffee, they'll see your nice design, they see your logo on that cup. And same thing with lighters, same thing with hoodies or a cool jacket or whatever. So try to come up with merchandise that, your audience really can use, and that has a purpose for them, that that's not just laying around, something that they can really brings benefits to their life. Now, if you do that very well, I'm sure, like, if you're out there playing, and even if you have an online shop, people will buy your merch. That's a very nice and interesting way of generating an income for you as a musician. It has a lot to do with you as a personality, as a character, in what you do as an artist. The only difference is you kind of like transform it into something else. Yeah, you create that brand and that image around you and as an artist, and you come up with cool designs, and all of a sudden you have a new product besides your music that you can sell. So that's another option for you, and I think that's a very interesting one too. Now, I want to round this video off with this short advice. Always keep your jobs organized. Whatever you decide to do as a musician, whatever jobs you go with, keep them organized. Keep like a nice, good-looking website for whatever you offer. And don't like throw everything on one page. Like, really, if you do teaching, have a web page, website just for the teaching. If you're a songwriter, do the same thing as a songwriter. Like, talk to the people that are looking for exactly that service that you offer. Okay, don't just throw all the services on one page, and people will get very confused if you do that. So you need to have a good, clean structure also as far as your social media. Create different channels for the jobs you're offering, the services you're offering. Okay, this is like something that will really help the people to find their way to your services and to approach you. Now, the second thing is always stay solution oriented. People will really appreciate that, okay? Because always keep in mind everybody has like their problems, and everybody's kind of like looking for solutions, especially in professional life. It's all about solutions. Now, you don't want to create any more problems for the people you're working with. You want to always try to offer them solutions, how to achieve something that they cannot achieve without you, or at least in that moment they can't achieve it without you. Always keep in mind that if you're not solution oriented, they might look for someone else, and someone else might offer them a good solution. So stay focused, solution oriented, and you will see that it has a very positive impact in whatever you do, because people really appreciate it. Now, last but not least, this is, for me personally, one of the most important things. Always stay passionate about what you do. Stay passionate and stay interested in what you do. Always try to see behind a story. That's really interesting, and that's where the magic really happens. Now, by doing that, you can assure yourself and your business partner that you always perform on the maximum possible. You have the maximum output on creativity and ideas, and this is really what you want for yourself and for everybody around you that you're working with. Now, I hope this video has helped you, maybe today, maybe in the future. If you haven't done so, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps the channel grow, and I'm looking forward to talk to you again. Stay creative. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.